guys. Welcome back to another edition of the Addictively Speaking podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me tonight is Natali Mei. And she is a psychologist, and she specializes in anxiety, depression, mental health, all types of mental health, and addiction and recovery specifically. And she works with CBT, cognitive behavioral therapy, and it's really lovely to have you, Natali. I appreciate you coming on and giving my listeners, a little introduction into psychology and how it can be helpful in their lives with mental health, with addiction and recovery. So tell us a little bit about yourself.
Hi, James. It's great to be on your podcast. Thank you so much for inviting me. It's a pleasure to be here, and I hope to be helpful to your listeners. So I am a psychologist, and I have my own story with addiction, which lasted for many years. I've been addicted to various things. So my first addiction was smoking, which I got into when I was just 15 years old. And I couldn't get rid of it for so many years. I just didn't want to stop it because it was like my therapy thing. My therapy tool, because I was struggling with loneliness. I didn't get support from my family. I didn't have friends. I had to leave my country. We had to leave Russia when I was just a teenager, and had to come to Hungary, which is in Eastern Europe. And I was bullied in school for being Russian, unfortunately. Yes. So I had to go through various stages in my life, and I was completely alone. I didn't have anyone to turn to. I didn't even have friends to talk about my problems. So that's why cigarettes were my therapy tool. And it remained like that for many, many years until one day I woke up and realized that it's not serving me at all. So they are not doing any good for me. It's just like a bad habit, like destructive habit, and they're not making me smarter. They're not making me stronger. They're not making me whatever. They're just like I'm spending money on them, and I'm killing my own health. I'm destroying my own health. So it was my birthday, and I was thinking, what can I give myself for my birthday? And then I realized that the best gift I can give to myself would be to quit smoking. And I said, okay, that's it. I'm stopping my cigarettes. I'm never going to smoke again. And that's it. That's exactly what I did. And I never smoked ever since. And now I hate the smell of smoking. I can't be with someone who smokes. And that was the beginning of me practicing cognitive behavioral therapy on myself. That was before I knew anything about cognitive behavioral therapy, but that's exactly how it works. You think of your own destructive behavior, and you try to realize why you're doing this, like why you're having this habit, or why you're behaving this way. So you search for the root cause of this habit. Let's say you realize that smoking is your self-medication, or drinking alcohol is your self-medication, is your self-therapy for your depression, for your loneliness, for your anxiety, for your, you cannot fit into society or something like that. And then when you realize that, you can also realize that this habit is not serving the purpose. So it just numbs your pain. It numbs your brain into stop thinking, stop thinking the thoughts, but at all. So it's not making you any good. It's not bringing you any good in the future. And that's why you can always, when you realize that, you can be smart and say, okay, that's it, enough. I need to replace this destructive habit with something constructive, something that can serve me in the future and can make me a better person, because I want to be successful. I don't want to be like no one. I don't want to die young from cancer, from cigarettes, or I don't want to die from heart attack from taking too much drugs or from drinking too much alcohol. And if you realize that, you can just like talk yourself into being someone better. And there are a lot of strategies how to do that. So for example, planning your life ahead is one of the strategies. And I already shared with you before this recording that I have a book and I write this strategy. I outline the strategy in my book. It's what I use in my therapy, and you can download it for free from my website, natalimei.com. And yes, please feel free to go to my website, download the free segment, and there you can find this life planner in which you can plan your life until your ultimate end. And this can surely help you to cope with the bad habits. If you concentrate on what needs to be done, what is good for you, what are your life goals, then you can plan your life in a way that you won't have enough, like sufficient time to waste for drinking, smoking, doing drugs. And I think this is the best way to cope with any addiction. So at least it worked for me. Nothing else worked for me. I didn't do any other therapy than cognitive behavioral therapy. I learned cognitive behavioral therapy and I learned these tools from there. And I summarized all the tools and I made this planner, which I use for myself. It helps my life and it's helping the lives of my clients from from all countries with my work. So um, I think it's a great therapy tool, and everyone can use it to do better in their lives.
All right. Funny enough, CBT. I actually, before COVID, was seeing a psychologist for some past issues, and CBT was exactly what he suggested to me, exactly what he recommended that we start working on. So I am a bit familiar with it. Um, but what I'd like to ask you is, how long have you been a psychologist, practicing psychologist?
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I learned psychology. I started learning psychology in 2020 during COVID because
Mm-hmm.
I was trying to solve my own issues, which I had like depression, anxiety, addictions from I had from before. And also I was taking care of my grandmother who had dementia. And I was stuck in Moscow, and the pandemic just broke out, and all the borders were closed. So I was basically just like stuck in the situation when I had nothing else to do, and I decided this is a good opportunity to study psychology. So I found a university in Russia that offered online psychology education, and I studied it. And the same year, I started practicing with people online. So I did free online sessions with people who needed help. So yeah, so I'm basically practicing since the end of 2020. And I got
Okay.
my degree in psychology in 2021. And
Mm-hmm.
since then, I decided to make it my main occupation, and I just feel like it's my life purpose because it makes me feel so good to help other people overcome their problems. And yeah, there is so much demand for it now because the world is getting crazier and crazier every day, unfortunately. And also
Yeah.
there is a huge problem with addiction. I don't know how about in UK, but in United States and Canada, addiction is number one cause of death for people under 50 years old. So it surpasses COVID and car accidents and guns, everything. So it's really huge. More than 200 people die every day just from fentanyl. I don't know about UK if you have this problem.
In the UK, fentanyl's not huge, but there's a lot of addiction issues. I mean, there's alcohol issues. There's the barbiturates is the big one over here, and cocaine. but they don't really have the fentanyl or like the synthetic opioids yet. I imagine they do at some places, but it's not as like crazy as America. Because America, it's apparently, you know, going a bit wild with like fentanyl. And I know before I moved, fentanyl was really starting to hit the streets. People were dying quite quickly just for taking, because people were cutting it with heroin, and then, you know, they get a hot shot and they'd be dead, you know, within hours. I had a friend who actually that happened. He ended up getting messed up with some heroin, and he took a lethal dose, and it was laced with fentanyl and killed him instantly. So yeah, it's dangerous stuff out there. So with CBT, that's your primary, you know, your primary thing to work with is CBT. You work with people with addiction. What types of addiction, you know, does CBT really work for?
Well, CBT works brilliantly with all types of addictions. But I decided to concentrate on addiction to substances because this is what is really killing people, like too many people, as I said. And also, like, I practice psychology in English. So the English-speaking countries are like the most affected by the addiction, because you know, this fentanyl is coming from Mexico, as I've heard, and that's why, like, both United States and Canada, like especially states like California, is very like vulnerable, and so like a lot of kids die from fentanyl because. As you said, it's like it can be just like something laced with fentanyl. So it could be weed, it could be Xanax, it could be like anything. So they like, maybe they do it on purpose. Like who knows? Maybe they just want to kill Americans. We don't know, and unfortunately, government is not taking action for this. So for me, when I found out about this, I was like really you know, upset. And I decided that maybe it's, you know, someone like me has to bring public attention to this, that, you know, like to speak on the podcast, so that people who, you know, like to smoke weed, they should be like really careful. Maybe they should not smoke the weed. Maybe they should buy like, you know, the manufactured oil pan with the oil, you know, something which you cannot like access, and put fentanyl inside, something you can be sure that you don't die, because for sure no one wants to die like when they just want to have a little bit of weed. But unfortunately, this is the case. Everything which is you know, like open and which is not like fabrically like you know, made, can be just accessed by some criminals, and they can put fentanyl there on purpose, and people might end up dying accidentally, unfortunately. And this is not just like one person died. This is the whole family affected. It's the parents, it's the siblings. Maybe they have a wife or children. So it's a whole bunch of people suffering from this unfortunate mistake. So that's why I hope to bring attention for people that you know, they should be really careful. And now they have to really watch what they're doing, because it's not safe at all to just, you know, indulge in the illegal things, because everything illegal contains this, you know, percentage of danger, which they can put anything inside there, just anything, and you can be like simply dead in a second. So I hope all the people will just take this warning and you know, be careful.
So with CBT, so you're treating somebody that has an addiction issue. How does that look? How does that start? What's like the first thing you would do? So I come in, I have an addiction to, you know, alcohol. What's the treatment plan? How does that work?
Yeah, so first of all, I'm going to ask you, why are you drinking? Yeah, so we're going to the roots of that. So the person will say, okay, I'm drinking because I'm stressed, or I'm drinking because my wife left me, or I'm drinking because my husband is cheating on me. I'm drinking because of something. Yes. So every time there is a reason. So then we are going to work on that reason, because that's the root cause of the addiction. Because the addiction usually is a self-medication that the person is doing to avoid emotional pain. Yeah, because this is how people cope with emotional pain, by numbing their brain with the substances. This is a traditional thing. It's over centuries, and the alcohol, of course, is number one. It was always used like for centuries by people to for was used by the warriors to be fearless in the fight. It was used afterwards to numb the pain of the wounds. So it's absolutely normal that we have this history. But now we have, the intellect to think, okay, we are not going to the war. We are not suffering from a physical wound. So why? Why are we drinking? Okay, if there is a cause, so let's work on that cause. So let's say if your husband is cheating on you and that's why you're drinking, so we need to, have an interaction with the husband and discuss this problem and realize, are we moving further together, or are we getting a divorce? How is it going to work? This problem has to be solved, because you don't want to, kill yourself with the alcohol. You want to, for sure, live a happy life, and it cannot just appear from nowhere. You have to resolve an issue, and then you can move further, and be healthy and happy. So basically, yeah. So we start by focusing on the issue. Why are you drinking? Then we are trying to resolve the issue to make it work for the person. And the last part, I'm giving everyone my life planner, which I already mentioned in our discussion. It has 8 pillars of happiness, which is the psychology, physiology, lifestyle, family, occupation, finance, society, and spirituality. So it's similar to the wheel of Tony Robbins, but I use it as a planner. So I give people a task to plan each of these pillars until the end of their life, just to see themselves in the end of their life and how they want to be. So when a person has the vision of the end of the life, they have to put everything down. And then we step down and we write a goal for the next 10 years. Yeah, and then a goal for the next 5 years, and then a goal for the next year. And the goal for the next year, we are basically writing everything down, and the person has a task to work on this goal for the next year. And this is how their next year is going to look like. So hopefully they can do it on their own. So they can have, let's say, 8 sessions with me to work on each pillar. So 1 to work on physiology, 1 to work on psychology, 1 to work on family, etc. Yes, and then they're on their own after these 8 sessions, and they can do for 1 year whatever they can on their own to fulfill this 1 year. And if they really put the effort into that, they don't need me anymore. They can do everything on their own for the next year and the 5 years and the 10 years, because basically it's not like it's not some very difficult science, or I don't know how you call it. So it's not like science fiction or anything. It's just a normal thing. You're planning your life like you would plan your trip to a foreign country. You would go into the details for the flight, for the hotel, for other things, for the restaurants, for the trips. The same, you're planning your year ahead. Just unfortunately, people are not taught this in schools, in universities, not anywhere, and we just think that life just happens. But unfortunately, it usually happens in a way which we don't really like. So we need to realize that we need to plan. It would be the same if you instead of planning a trip, you would just go. If you just arrive to airport and try to fly, whatever flight you will choose, and then you will ride to the place and you will walk around and try to find the hotel. It will be very difficult task
It's
to
much more
have
difficult.
fun.
Yeah, I was just going to
Yes,
say it's so
yes.
much harder to do it that way.
Yes, exactly. So the same, we are all, well, most of us, 99.9% are living the life in this way. So we just arrive and we hope to figure it out. Unfortunately, it doesn't work like this. And that's why we have depression, anxiety, and all the addictions, because we are like, oh my God, how I'm going to survive through all this? Well, you can't. You have to plan, and then everything will go according to your plan. And if it doesn't, there is an option, what to do if it doesn't go to according to your plan. There is a column in my table, like if something happens, what will you do? So you also have to fill it in. So, with this table, you basically prepare for anything, and it's very simple, and even like 11-year-old person can do it. So it's simple, useful, and helpful.
Right. So in that instance, you're dealing with somebody that's addicted, and you're teaching them these things. When do they quit? When do they stop doing whatever they're doing to numb it? I know it's you find the root of it, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're going to stop in that instance. I mean, especially with a physical addiction, it's much more difficult to come off of something that you're physically addicted to. You said you had an addiction to smoking, and that's kind of like a physical thing because your body needs the nicotine because you've given it nicotine for however many years. So your body kind of, wants it, doesn't it? How is it coming off of substances and stuff like that? Like once you get to that root, how are they coming off? What's that plan for them?
So in my experience, physical addiction is nothing to the willpower. If you make a decision that you want to stop, then nothing will, nothing will stop you. You will stop. So the only challenge that I have is to really motivate people to want to stop. That's the only way. Because I cannot talk them into stopping if they don't want to stop, if they don't understand and realize and believe. So they must have like a faith, like, yes, I really want to stop and I can stop today, immediately, right now. I'm like, shutting off this computer after our session, and that's it. I'm not going to do it anymore. Yeah. So if they have this faith, they will not have withdrawal symptoms. They will not have anything. It works like magic, really. Just people really have to believe in it. And number two, they must not surround themselves with other people who use alcohol, drugs, or whatever. For me, when I was like really had a problem, I was living in Miami at that point. So what I did, I just blocked all the numbers of my friends and of my dealers, yeah, and I blocked them. And after I deleted the numbers, so they did not have access with me with my phone. And I went to so instead of going to clubs, I started going to a church. I volunteered in a Presbyterian church, and I started like helping them. They gave me some things to do, and it was like making me fulfilled and happy. So I felt like I belong to a group of people, because belonging to a group of people is very important. It's the pillar which I call society in my 8 pillars of happiness. So yes, it's very important. So when you're quitting on your old group of people who are using, you must find a new group of people who are doing something constructive. So that could be a church, it could be, I don't know, a mosque, a synagogue, or if you're atheist, it could be, I don't know, like you can help the animal shelter, which is also a great thing. So anything, like doing like good volunteering, like helping homeless, helping
doing like service
animals.
work, service to others.
Yeah, doing service. Yeah. This kind of stuff, because it will give you the feeling of so it will give you dopamine, basically.
Yeah,
So the
it
same
releases dopamine.
Yeah. Yeah,
It's
because when
reward. It's
you,
reward for doing something selfless
mhm,
for somebody else. It releases. It's like a
yeah,
natural release of dopamine because you've done something. Um,
yeah, hmm,
yeah, really, I definitely agree with all of this. It's funny because obviously when you're struggling with addiction and things like that, you don't see these things the way you're presenting it. Do you know what I mean? Like, and I think for me, in like rare cases, I feel like rare cases, people just stop. I personally woke up one day and said, I'm not drinking anymore. I'm done. I had a revelation. I had a moment. I came to this epiphany and I said, that's it. I'm not drinking. And that was it. I was done. And I'll be 12 years sober on the 22nd of January. So I did it, but I didn't actually like know what I was going to do, if that makes any sense. Like I did all the things that you're just saying right there. Like I started doing things differently. I did things that were more constructive for myself. I put things in my life that were, I started doing like jujitsu and MMA and like physical activities that were channeling that energy. So I definitely see how this can be beneficial to people in addiction, but I think it's hard for people in addiction to see it in a logical way when you're dealing with people that are, you know, doping and drugging and their mind is kind of fuzzy, you know? So you said, it can take some time for them they have to want to do it. Do you find it a lot of times that people come in with addiction problems and they're not really ready, even if they find what the root of it is, they're not really ready to do the work, or they're not really sure if they can do the work?
hmm. Yes, I find so many times people contact me and they want to have a session with me and then they just disappear. So they want to, but they don't want it bad enough. And this is something I cannot influence, unfortunately. The only thing I can do for them is to be like all over the place. If they will see my face talking about addiction, like how you need to give up addiction, like everywhere, like we see
Mm-hmm.
Kardashians, for example. Yeah. So then it will, after repetition, they will be like, yeah, we have to. So unfortunately, there is no other way. So they just have to be facing, someone who was like, oh, you must stop because it will kill you. There is fentanyl now everywhere. You have to be careful because, people are just trying to kill you guys, unfortunately. And you must really watch, because one thing is like you're running away from emotional pain, but please just, like sit down and think, like maybe like you'll be dead tomorrow. What will your family do without you? Do you really want to be dead and remembered as a drug addict? And no one will talk about you in your family meetings because they will be ashamed of the way you died. Because this is how it is. Because most of the world is treating, people with addiction not as they have an illness like a cancer, for example, but as they're criminals and moral failure. So
Yeah.
if there is, and that's why no one is talking about all these deaths in United States and Canada, in Australia, because the families are ashamed of a person, of somebody who died because of drugs. Unfortunately, they're not. Saying, oh, like let's find this dealer who sold them, and let's do the justice. No, they're just hiding this pain inside because they're thinking that it was the person's fault, but it's not the person's fault at all. If the drugs were not available widely, then we wouldn't have this problem. But unfortunately, they are. So this is the problem: the availability of drugs everywhere, and in order to stop it, we must collectively, as a society, bring this topic to all the media, all the main media, and to talk about it and to make people hear our message. This is what I think.
You know what? I absolutely agree. And it's sad that there is such a negative stigma that goes along with people that are that die from addiction or that are addicted to these substances that are so widely available to everybody, everywhere, at any time, and they're not really looking to fix the problems, how they should fix them, how they should take care of these people that have lost their lives over this stuff. They shouldn't be looked at as moral failures, or they're just people that are trying to escape from something and they don't know how to deal with it. And everybody's been in that situation where you had something happen and you didn't know how to deal with it. Maybe you got lucky and didn't get hooked on heroin, or you didn't become an alcoholic, but there are people that just can't emotionally figure that shit out, and they use because of that. And then they continue to use because they're ashamed of not being able to handle that. And people make them feel like shit for not being able to cope with life or deal with things. And that's the problem. That's the cycle, is that people, every time that somebody sees somebody on heroin, they're like, oh, they're just a junkie. That's a horrible thing to call somebody, is a junkie. Like they're somebody's daughter, they're somebody's brother, they're somebody's sister. They probably have family that loves them, that wonders when they're going to get that phone call that they've passed away. So yeah, I think you're right. Like, we need to address the situations and offer as much help to people as possible. And no matter what that is, whether it's, being on as many podcasts as you can be on to get your message heard, to help people by spreading, your help, saying, listen, CBT can work. You can make it work. You have to want it, but it can help you change your life. And I believe that that's true. I believe that, like, CBT can, like, I changed my life, and I did all those things that you were saying. I put this plan in place, and I kept moving forward without alcohol and continued to build off that, where I built the life that I wanted for myself. It's not perfect. It's not, it's not without stress. It's not without, but I can cope with life better now. I can deal with it. I still have the depression. I still have the anxiety. I still have the problems, but at least I'm sober. At least I'm sober. And, I could have died 10 years ago. I could have died 11 years ago. I could have been in jail. So I definitely think it's important that what you're doing, gets to people. People understand it, that therapy is a helpful tool. What are some other things that you think people in addiction should know about CBT and just therapy in general? Like,
well, first of all, they should know that so they can use it as self-help. That's also very important, because I know in many countries that you have to wait for addiction therapists for maybe 3 or 4 months until you get an appointment. And they're also very expensive. I googled the rates in the UK, and they're mostly over £300, which is crazy, So first of all, I charge much less. So if you want to reach out for me, then you're welcome, through my website. Right now, I don't have overwhelmed flow of patients, because, as I said, I'm just starting out this January. I just finished my book about addiction, but I hope to make it very big. I hope to really make it the biggest issue in the world, because it is the biggest issue in the world. It's more than COVID, and it's absolutely neglected. It's twice as big as COVID, and there is absolute silence from the media, from the governments, and I only hear about it from people. From the podcast, basically, and from research and from statistics, because I Google it. But of course, no one is going to Google what is the death rate from drugs in this country, because they don't care, right?
And they're not going to announce it. The media is not going to announce it. The government's not going to announce that kind of stuff either.
Yeah, exactly. And of course, in Russia, we don't even know what's going on because in Russia, nobody knows what's going on.
Yeah.
We don't even know who is this guy who is saying he's Vladimir Putin. It's absolutely different person, you know. So, so, so in Russia, we don't have any true statistics, right? So in the world, for sure, this problem is huge because fentanyl is a synthetic drug and it's very easy to do to make, and I'm sure it's spread like all over. So we don't know how many people are dying daily from it, but we know for sure that it's more than COVID, and there is zero information about it. And unfortunately, the most vulnerable people are the kids, because the kids, don't, they don't have jobs, and they like to try stuff. They like to experiment. So for sure, they will be trying all these, different substances, and they will be dying like, 200 of them every day, in each country. So it will be in the world, like, like we have like 100,000 people dead every day, and this is terrible because, you know, I just can't imagine the family who are like they're losing their children in this young age because of this drugs, and no one is even doing anything to stop it. That must be a terrible feeling, for the parents, for the families. So yeah, so I really hope that this issue is going to be, regulated by the governments more strictly. That the drugs will disappear from availability, and yeah, and of course, these people who are unfortunately using the drugs, they will understand that their problems can be fixed with just refocusing their mind. So from the problem that they have and the self-medicating problem, the drugs, they should just like close that door completely and focus on the bright future, because everyone has a bright future and everyone is coming into this world with some greater purpose. And people unfortunately forget that, and especially when they start using the drugs, they completely forget that. But everyone is capable to overcome it. It's just the power of their willpower. And I wish for everyone to successfully overcome their cravings, their addictions, and to live the life which they're meant
I mean, yeah. I mean, I think we're all here for a purpose. I think we're all here for something. And drugs and alcohol definitely get in the way of accessing that. So I do think that is true, that you can overcome it. People do overcome it by just, putting their mind to it. But you have to want that situation. You have to be ready to accept that situation and move into it. And if you are ready to accept that situation and you are ready to move forward, then you can contact Natali and get some help, get some CBT, learn how to structure your life, learn how to build a fulfilling future for yourself, because it is possible. People do it. People don't all do it the same way. They all do it different ways. Some people find 12-step programs work best. Some people have to go to rehabs. Some people have to relapse, find recovery. It's all different for everybody. But it is good to know that, cognitive behavioral therapy is available. It helps. You can use it. It can be a tool in your toolbox of recovery. Is there anything else you would like to talk about, Natali? Anything that you want to share that you have coming up in the future? Like the next couple things you're doing, any podcasts that you've been on that are coming out, anything that you'd like to share?
No, I just want to invite everyone to my website, natalimei.com, and to download a free segment from my book, which they can use as a life planner. And I'm sure it will be very useful for everyone, not just for someone with addiction, but also with someone who just has depression or doesn't know what to do with their lives, So it's a basic therapy tool which I use for every problem. And it's like a magic key which can solve any problem. So this is what I would recommend for everyone. And I'm planning to publish my book on Amazon Kindle until the end of January. It's now available just on my website, but I've received so many requests. They want a paper printed book, so I decided to put it on Kindle. So right now I'm working on it. So if you want a printed book, just wait a couple of weeks and it will be out. But right now, at least use the free version from my website. And if you think that you need like a push to want to stop your addiction, or you want to uncover why is it you're using and to find like a replacement for that, then feel free to book a session with me. You can do it on my website, natalimei.com.
And it's online, so it's anybody around the world, anywhere, anytime, they can get in touch with you through your website, yes?
Yes, exactly. I'm a licensed therapist in Russia. So, I don't have, so I basically have an international degree, but as I work online, I don't need certification in each country. I don't require that because my service is online. Number one, and number two, I don't prescribe any medications. My therapy is fully cognitive behavioral therapy, which is a talk therapy. So that's why I am free to work with any person from anywhere in the world. And that's why my rates are also much lower than in each specific country, because I don't need to pay high taxes as my colleagues in UK or in United States, they have to pay. So that's why my therapy is more affordable, and I hope it will benefit the listeners of your podcast.
I hope so too. I think, like I said, I did some CBT right before COVID hit. I was going like every week or every 2 weeks to work on some stuff that I was going through. And I definitely found it was helping because I wasn't sleeping at night, and he gave me a breathworks tape to work with, listening to some breathing, and really helped me focus my mind in a better direction. So I can attest that CBT is very useful. It's something that you should have, or at least have knowledge in. If you don't have knowledge in it, look it up, Google it, see what the benefits are, because CBT is used by loads of psychologists for everything from depression, anxiety, addiction, to all kinds of different things. So if you are thinking about getting into recovery and you're ready to accept things, look at CBT. It could be very useful. I'd like to just thank you, Natali, for coming on and having this conversation with me. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, James, for inviting me. It was a great conversation that we had, and I really hope that many people hear us and they decide to make positive changes in their lives.
Yeah, absolutely. So usually before I end the show, I like to ask people, what are 3 things that you need in your recovery? But you're not, I mean, you are in recovery, but like, what are 3 things that you need in your life to manage your anxiety or your mental health? Or what are like some people do yoga or journaling or, breath works or whatever. What are 3 things that are like your go-to?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the basic thing is self-love, I would say. So you have to really give yourself that love that you're usually seeking from outside. You have to be your own best friend, your own parent, your own child, everything. So just to focus on yourself and give yourself the best treatment that is possible. Then second is a physical activity. So for myself, I do yoga every morning and the cardio every evening. In fact, after this recording, I'm going for a run into the park, and I do this every night, and it really helps me to be better at night because it also releases dopamine and all things like that. So this is number 2. And breath work, which you mentioned, is also like a great tool. I've been using it for a while. I have my own breathwork program, and I want to do like a separate book on that, maybe, and a separate training, separate teaching, or maybe we can do a separate podcast just devoted to the breathwork, because it's a huge topic and it really helped me a lot during the past year. So it's really, really helpful.
Yeah,
And
it's great for like anxiety and stuff. I feel like it's very soothing and calming, and you're in touch with yourself. It put me to sleep every single night. I would go straight to sleep to listening to it.
yes, and it's also great for like rejuvenating the body, which the body really needs after you've been addicted to substances or alcohol, which are like destroying the body and the brain. The body really needs this, extra push, and the breath work is perfect for it. So this would be number 3, and number 4 I would give is a good nutrition. So instead of drinking Coca-Cola or other sugary drinks, we should drink water. Absolutely, and yes, very good. And also, I'd like to specify that water in the bottles in most countries is just a tap water. And so the best thing you can do is have a purifier at home with a charcoal filter, and use the tap water inside this purifier, and then drink it. That would be the best water. Or to boil it and drink tea or coffee with it. Because I watched several programs on Evian and I don't know, all these waters. And even Coca-Cola is just a tap water mixed with the brand. So unfortunately, that's another thing. And of course, food should not be from McDonald's, or it should not be any conserved food, but it should be fresh vegetables and fresh meat or fresh fish, whatever. Only fresh, not anything like from a box. Yeah, and then you will have everything that you need to have a long and happy and healthy life.
All right. Well, thank you, Natali. I appreciate your time again, and it's been awesome. And yeah, like you said, maybe in the future we'll do another one with breathworks. I'd be interested in that as well. So this is it. This is the end of the Addictively Speaking podcast episode. Natali Mei, thank you.